Okay, you're on.
All right, welcome to the Milwaukee Zine Fest reading, everybody. Am I talking loud enough? Because I can hear myself, so I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm right in front.
In the back, can you all hear me? Am I talking loud enough?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Welcome to Milwaukee Zine Fest reading 2012. Tonight we will have several people reading, at least one performance, 2 musical performances, and who knows what else will come as people arrive. I'm going to start out by reading a piece from my zine, Basements and Living Rooms, and this is issue number 3. And this is a contribution-based zine, so there's things by our submission-based zine, so there's things by many different people. This piece is by Ryan from Greenville, South Carolina. It's called On the Map. About 5 years ago, my friend Adam and I had a conversation about DIY punk in our current town of Greenville, South Carolina. It's a progressive, southern, oxymoronic, right? City in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. We have a good bike culture, cool record stores, and a lot of suburbs. I originally moved back here to teach the 4th grade as I spent a few years of high school in this southern town. I didn't know much about the town's punk rock history, which possibly is because there wasn't much of one to begin with. I was already involved in doing house shows before I moved here. The first 2 spaces I was a part of were in an even smaller city with even less of a DIY punk history, a college/old textile town called Greenwood, South Carolina. So I knew what small town punk shows were and that there would be a lot of work necessary to build. The conversation I had with Adam focused on one point. Let's put our town on the map. Let's create a scene based on those that we have been influenced by throughout our lives. Greenville was a fresh start, a new beginning. We wanted to focus on integrating as much of the younger high school crowd as possible because we wished we had a community DIY space or straight up house show to go to as kids. Instead of the alternative in this area, which is sketchy bar shows that have zero community involvement unless your community involvement equates to heavy use of real drugs and nu metal. As a rebellion to fashionable music and community-less spaces, we started our first space in Greenville. It was a gigantic warehouse that looked like an airplane hangar. We built a kitchen and made rooms in the air-conditioned section, while we left the back open for shows, practice spaces, a bike co-op, and a documentary lounge. We knew what we wanted, a safe space that welcomed young people. Since we were testing the waters of Greenville, it was a sober space. It was a goal to book at least 2 high school bands per show. The search was on, and luckily my space was king at the time. We were able to book bands like The Soap, Ditching Cody, The Francis Vertigo, Count Us Out, Throwback. Bands made up of high school kids that brought out legions of their friends, which in turn created even more local bands. And furthermore are now our friends and collaboratively booking shows with us. Every time a new person came to a show, we embraced them as equals and taught them about the space, no matter how little their outfit or attitude displayed their music taste or knowledge. Of course, we had to kick out riffraff from time to time to protect our space, and apparently we were intense, ideological, and opinionated, but we set the tone of Greenville DIY. Together, many people created a city where bands were supported by younger folks that come out and dance like hell with those of us who will never grow up. Adversity has faced us many times, and we continue to fight hard to protect our spaces. We are on space number 5 now. They get shut down for all sorts of reasons, but Greenville DIY will never stop. Radical thinkers and great artists have spawned and thrived here. People are growing up, empowered and alive. Some kids move away, yet we are lucky to find new punks yearly as they get older and find our scene. Kids have told me that I've saved their lives, but they have given true meaning to mine. I feel so appreciative to the kids that make this city livable and keep my motivation strong. The reason I wrote this is because I believe you can do the same for your town. We are nothing special yet, but we have had some of the largest, most fun, and inspiring shows I've ever been to. We pushed our own boundaries and took time to educate those around us. We walked up to the parents dropping their kids off at shows and assured them that their child was in a safe space. We called out our friends when they were being fucked up, and we'll never ever give up. Again, that's by Ryan from Greenville, South Carolina. Next up, Christopher Wilde.
Two things, or is it just do one? Okay, I'll do it. Hi, I'm one of the organizers for this year's Zine Fest. Welcome. So I picked two things to read tonight. One, it looks super glossy in color for a zine, but it's the spirit of a zine, Queers in Stardust and the Spiders from Halifax. It's a road trip zine about a trip I took to Canada a couple of years ago. And I'll just read pages. I did it kind of day by day. And this kind of gives you like a shorthand of the experience that I had there. This is from day 19. Wake at 6 a.m., needing to use the washroom and still feeling slightly drunk. Wanted to put the kettle on, but felt like getting more sleep. So I just put water in a tea mug I'd used around 3 a.m. to have green tea. I didn't have Tylenol, just acetaminophen with a muscle relaxant that cautions using after consuming alcohol. No thanks then. Re-wake properly at 9 a.m., shower, and get down to Good Eats Emporium to bring the mod book, which is my computer, along with me to design this zine's cover. Took some fudging to get the shadow slider in the adjustments panel to bring out the spider, which you can see on the cover. I'm always amazed by the pics produced by the magnifying glass setting on my camera. Spiders are everywhere here, here being Halifax, Nova Scotia. Earlier this year, I had a conversation with someone about spiders and river bridges. This person had seen some pretty wicked spider webs off the Locust Street Bridge here in Milwaukee, and had also seen similar webs in Austin, Texas. Later in the morning, I trekked over to Atlantic Superstore and bought the smallest bottle of laundry detergent I could find that was for sensitive skin. On the way back, I bumped into Caleb and Sky. Caleb was my host for a few days while I was there. Gathering up laundry was an opportunity to air out the shed, and the shed is where you stay when you're a guest artist in residence there. But it turned a little poignant when I realized that soon I'd be packing to leave and giving up the comforts that I'd come to know here. I've even found myself referring to Robert Street as going home a couple of times. The turning point during the massive poster creation sessions, my project was making wheat paste posters of Canadian cruising history. It seeded the notion that the anchor space is truly a home and had originally been a home to Sarah and Sonia at one time a few years ago. I wonder, but I haven't asked, what history does this house have? Other houses around it are similar enough, but most are being renovated, and as a result of these processes, or processes, I guess, I catch glimpses of how those houses are constructed and how that informs the remodeling. Most houses in the immediate area are undergoing work, have had replacement windows. Robert Street already seems to have had most of its original windows replaced, probably a minimum of 10 years ago. However, the house functions mostly through a series of practical fixes overlaid on top of one another. It's a testament to the energy and the spirit of wanting to keep the house and space functional, yet highlights the economic reality that the costs of proper remodeling there's just not the money there to do it. I wish I'd been able to skill share some of the maintenance talents and tricks that I have, but without a knowledge of local builder sources, the task turned out to be difficult. For example, their bathroom ceiling will fall in someday. It wasn't eminent at that time, but definitely it wasn't ready for winter at that point. I could advise them how to proceed, but without the ability to examine the space directly by taking out the things that were broken or in disrepair, any knowledge I could share would be woefully incomplete and might create problems instead of solving them. While the residency program is about art, how wonderful it would be to have the art being the art and craft of maintenance. The 2-week period would certainly be a good time frame for a small project, and were it done collectively, as problems arise, they could be transformed quickly and possibly help the process flow well. Nice to know that $2.25 and 23 minutes got 2 regular wash loads very nearly dry. Since things don't dry easily here in an ocean climate, better to kick in another $1 for 10 more minutes. With that thought, the dryer clicks off, and now on to getting out of here and heading off for the rest of my final Saturday in Halifax. And the transition to the next piece is at the end of this. Obviously later that day I went out for pizza, and for some reason I had a really hard time ordering just like plain non-meat pizza in Canada. This is one exchange. Me, do you have cheese pizza? The counter person says, no, not as slices. Oh, okay, well, I don't eat meat. Are there vegetarian slices? The counter person says, yes, we have chicken. Chicken is meat. Yes, it is. White meat. I said, but that's meat. That's not a vegetarian pizza. I'll stop back later. And I never went back. I'll close here with a request that I read. It's an essay that I wrote for the end. I'm one of the co-founders of the Queer Zine Archive Project, so this website where we archive past and present queer zines. So the folks in that collective put out this zine, and this is about some situations that I've found myself in as sort of one of the people who kind of interprets queer zine history and also shares that with people. And we found that there were, and I think a lot of people in sort of emergent cultures and smaller communities can know, like, if somebody from outside steps in and tries to define and tell you what you are with no regard to your history or your input, and radically changes what the notion is, why you'd get as cranky as I do here in a piece I call Defenders of the Craft. Establishing and communicating a comprehensive, inclusive narrative of queer zine history and its allied cultures is at the heart of QZAP's educational and archival mission. Occasionally in subcultures outside the mainstream, there occurs troubling events and memes that seek to undermine the established historical order as determined by the people from within that subculture. To understand the context of our QZAP collective members' current struggle to ensure equal representation of all queers, especially women zinesters, it is helpful to briefly look back at an incident in the 1990s that had similar undercurrents and how that relates to an ongoing misogyny regarding the telling of queer zine history today. Queers and punks have been scruffy, star-crossed lovers from the beginnings of punk in the 1970s. Through the work of such zines as Dr. Smith, JD's, and Homocore, queers have become more comfortable being out and creating noise under the banner of queercore and homocore. As is the way of most independent music, there is not a lot of mainstream exposure, either in record stores or in print, which is a key reason in the rise in the popularity of queer zines. Queer zines carried the reviews, the scene reports, and sometimes were even produced by the musicians themselves. Capitalist society ingrains in us a philosophy that nothing is valid or can be recognized as successful until it makes money and makes a big media splash. Those notions were in play during the mid-1990s when out of nowhere, queer zine editors who wrote about or devoted page space to queercore were clobbered bluntly on the head by a pre-release tape and pages of glossy hyperbole about some LA muscle queen named Brian Grillo, who, according to the music industry hype machine behind him, appeared to have single-handedly invented queercore completely out of the thick smog layer in the form of a band called Extra Fancy. Several zine editors, including myself, stood up to the publicity manager and in unequivocal terms suggested he use no lubricant for a sideways shove of the pre-release tape where tape recorders don't shine and they can't be easily ejected. I long since tossed the propaganda in the recycling bin and have recorded over the tape. Thanks for the free high-quality tape, suckers. But the impression of my anger at being bullied into championing this corporate-backed slime ball still remains. I thought the band had rightfully faded into obscurity, but sadly this was not so. Imagine my surprise years later when I pick up the 2005 book Homocore, The Loud and Raucous Rise of Queer Rock by David Simonelli and Ken Knox, and find that the Brian Grillo character is the main focus of the book. The whole of queers in underground punk scenes across North America and around the world from the 1970s onwards are mentioned in breathless passing so that they can get back to lavishing praise on Extra Fancy as having helped give rise to all the other queer rock bands and artists. At least they do profile women artists and give nods to many regional queer music events, and they interviewed key queercore veterans. However, by constantly dropping the Extra Fancy band back into this narrative at every opportunity, it diminishes the impact the book has to be an even-handed look at queercore and negates its effectiveness as an accurate history. Due to the fact that there's no definitive history of queercore that's been written yet, Homocore, The Loud and Raucous Rise of Queer Rock, will stand, in the eyes of some, as the representative story of the rise and development of the queercore genre. Now, let's fast forward to the present, and we occasionally encounter similar forces attempting to codify queer zine history, specifically by people who were likely not a part of the queer zine scene, hell-bent on filling in the perceived void in a collective queer zine history with their own flawed spin based on misrepresentations and blatant bias. In historical interpretation of any kind, there is a risk that a shared history may be told incorrectly or from a point of view that's problematic. Such is a case that we here at QZAP found ourselves this past spring. It cropped up from a situation left unchecked from 2 years ago. The QZAP Collective often receives requests to provide information about queer zines, queer zine culture, and information regarding specific queer zine creators and individuals, student researchers, and public institutions. As the collective member who focuses on the historical aspects of our project, and that's putting my BA in history to good use, by the way, I chose to answer the email. Nicely timed bell. The communication started innocuously enough. Would QZAP make recommendations for, quote, a panel discussion on queer zines, end quote? And since the event was to take place in a museum in New York and no travel funds were available, would we be able to recommend, quote, peoples in the New York or NYC area, in parentheses, or those who could get here, end quote, to be on this panel? Recalling the negative experiences we had had after accepting a 2008 request from New York City to participate in a queer zine history exhibition, triggered skepticism about this proposed panel that we were now asked to fill, without any money or whatever. While Alex Gartenfeld's amazing research and compilation efforts to create the companion guide to the Queer Zines History exhibition, he should be lauded for that work, and his support was helpful when I had objections to specific incidents that arose. The event felt a little more than an elitist cockfest showcase for the largest mainstream publications like butt magazines. So going back to this panel, using a few clues from the museum's inquiry email, I was able to find their online calendar listing for the event. Sure enough, it was being billed as a topic of gay media and not queer zines, and a representative of Butt Magazine was listed as a panel member. Judging by the other panelists' names, there were no easily identifiable women listed. That set off a different set of alarm bells. I expressed our concern to the museum with the, with involving ourselves, however indirectly, with an event that did not represent the diversity of the queer zine community as we know it. However, I was assured by the organizer that he sought to use, quote, the language of queer zine publication, or queer publications, and implied that if I was reading anything else into it, it was being altered after he drafted it, which seems incredulous since I was quoting only from his organization's website and from no other source. After consulting with the QZAP Collective and deciding that we'd participate even with our reservations expressed, we put forth the name of 2 individual artists to that museum staff person who had initially contacted us. We promoted the name of a female queer comic artist as our first choice, whose background seemed best suited for the discussion of the technical side of print production. I was rather surprised to learn later that she was passed over in favor of a gay male comic artist we had suggested secondly. At that moment, I realized my initial fears that this was a gay boys only club, for which talk of inclusiveness was an empty promise. These fears gave way to accepting the crushing reality that QZAP had been duped. Shortly after the announcement of the addition of the queer zinester we'd recommended to the panel, more bold misogyny surfaced. A modified description of the event now appeared on the institution's website, tying gay print to the lineage of queer zine history by stating queer zines began with JDs as created by, quote, Bruce LaBruce. So if anybody is a student of queer zine history, JDs, of course, is recognized as the first zine, but it's Bruce LaBruce. And more importantly, there's no co-credit of dyke punk filmmaker G.B. Jones. There's nothing unequivocal about that fact. They were co-conspirators from the get-go through all 8 issues. There were 2 quick responses to this omission. First, a dyke zinester in New York picked up the phone and called the museum to voice her concern about the panel description and to suggest the correction for the JD's credit. Meanwhile, I drafted an email to the person who had initially asked for QZAP's help in finding a panelist. Both of us were separately assured that the lack of credit to GB was, quote, a typo. And to the museum's credit, the calendar listing for the event on their website was updated accordingly after these conversations. Despite the museum staff making the efforts to ensure that a correction appeared after this was pointed out to them, it begs the question of what would have happened had it not been for the efforts of the network of folks who make up the QZAP Collective. Would GB have received her proper attribution? Or would gay men dominate opinion and diminish the entire gender's contribution to the whole of queer zine history by leaving her name out and not giving a second thought as to what that message sends? The panel itself went off well, and the museum staff were accommodating. QZAP's representative on the panel pointed out that even the panel moderator, whose claim to fame was starring in the Berlin version of MTV's Real World program, I guess MTV Europe, pointedly asked the rest of the panel why there were no women. Our representative also used guerrilla tactics to have our female queer comic panelist choice, the one I had mentioned we had put her name for first. She was in the audience, and then he was able to provide an opportunity for her voice to be heard during the question and answer portion of the panel. The Butt magazine spokesman made an attempt to claim QZAP's panelist was ragging on mainstream press, which is absolutely not true, even though it's true in our hearts. More to the point that our friend was trying to make was that queer zines and Butt magazine have rather different stories to tell, but when there's buzz generating all around that says otherwise, it's hard for you to get the message, those clear messages across. Now, breaking it down to a whole other level, during the whole kerfuffle, the New York Times Magazine blog carried an intriguing article by Suleiman Anya about Magazine, an obscure gay French underground publication from the 1980s. That deserved to be rescued from obscurity. However, in the 4th paragraph of his story, Anya makes a problematic assertion when attempting to contextualize Magazine into a broader history of gay underground publications. In reference, Anya cites Butt Magazine as having, quote, resuscitated the queer zine genre in 2001. How can a magazine that is tailored specifically to young gay male erotic culture be representative of a genre that includes women, a wide range of gender and sexual identities, people with disabilities, and people of color? Butt magazine can be celebrated as having revived gay male erotica, and rightfully so. The history of gay male erotica stretches back to an era where coded sexual objectification hid in plain view behind posing straps and in the guise of physique, the celebration of the essence of maleness as seen through the homosexual male gaze. But also incorporates part of the spirit of hardcore mags such as Drummer, which sought to print images and styles of the SM scene along with the fashion of leather and Levi's. They keep the shaggy spirit of post-Stonewall gay masculinity alive with photo series of natural-looking guys in all their gay glory and making it available and attractive to a mass audience with discretionary cash. The deviation Butt magazine has from queer zine history is evident. QZAP doesn't want to be too much of an arbiter of what is and what isn't a queer zine, because we don't want to engage in any sort of behavior that creates exclusivity or pushes anybody to the margins. However, when there is a widespread misinterpretation of what constitutes a queer zine, and more importantly, which publications should be exalted as representative of a greater queer zine history, Butt magazine simply does not have the chops and the cred to cut it as a queer zine, despite what gay male hipsters want to force us to believe. It's time to rewrite this narrative DIY style. I paid attention during my sophomore historiography class when the topic came up of how it is determined who writes history of a person's life or of certain events. Since queer zines still exist, and only a handful of folks who created them have passed on, there exists a unique opportunity for those of us who were involved in the creation and perpetuation of queer zines and its corresponding culture to be able to accurately and sincerely tell our stories and represent ourselves directly without an outsider's interpretation of our experiences and our work. By conflating the small zine becomes successful giant making money and makes it big story of Butt magazine, a publication by, for, and about gay men, and frankly arbitrarily curated from a subset of sexy gay men at that. That's a whole other story. As somehow representative of the whole of queer zines, does a huge disservice to queer women, gender queers, and the oh-so not glamorous queers who risked their lives or personal security and contributed their own funds and resources to create the zines we know and love as surrogates for our own personal experiences. These rebels and co-conspirators who make sacrifices to put words and images of their experiences to paper and share them with the broader world deserve to have all the recognition of being the true driving force behind the history and the future of queer zine genre. But these zinesters don't have the luxury of Butt Magazine's exclusive financial distribution scheme with American Apparel. Far from using blood money from a large corporate retailer, the power of ideas generated in the 25 plus years of queer zinesters from around the world, and in many languages, is the purest currency of all. Our ad hoc networks of small print runs, mail order distribution, or hand-to-hand tirades, ooh, that's trades, hand-to-hand trades, is able to reach a dedicated audience of thousands thousands of expensively priced slick magazines never could. What lasting network of people and ideas is created through exclusively and shutting out whole segments of queer people? Okay. I'm just going to skip to the end. We at the Q's Up Collective utilize this approach as a way of constructively championing the history and legacy of the queer zine phenomenon, rather than attempting to step into the booming echo chamber of self-styled gay male authorities in New York who do not want to recognize anything other than the sound and fury of their own bluster. By working outside the constraints of the public pissing matches that these people have set off, we attempt to stay true to the craft of queer zine creation and seek only to honor and venerate the enduring individuals and groups that take huge risks in publishing their views of a wider queer world to discover. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Next up is Kelly.
Okay. I feel like that was a really good intro for me. I'm going to read a piece from a zine that I just made with my best friend. Do you guys know the work of Allison Mitchell at all? She's a Canadian artist, and she has this great series of installations that are really deep les. So Jennifer and I made deep les zine. And the piece I'm going to read is about Saturn's return. So I'm not totally sure that I'm in my Saturn return yet, but the last year or so, I've moved 4 times. My girlfriend got a job across the country. I helped her move. She dumped me a month later, and now I live really far away from all my friends and family. I am in a good burgeoning spot in my career, but hell. I've never been into astrology, beside the novelty, enjoyment, scoffing in the back of the weekly paper, but the tears and hysteria of the past few months especially have me a little more open-minded. For ye like-minded skeptics, here's the lowdown. Our dear planet takes about 29 years to do its orbit. Around Saturn, sorry. Or in relation to Saturn. There's a graphic, it makes it a little more clear. So when you're about somewhere between 27 and 32, Saturn ends up back in the same place in the sky as it was when you were born. Okay, so what? Supposedly, this represents crossing a major threshold, like you're entering the second of 3 likely stages in your life, right? So 27, hopefully another 27, one more. More importantly, this is also a time of life when everything gets fucked up. Careers, friendship, love. And there's the beauty of the Saturn return. I don't understand why it would work like that. I don't even care enough to get my chart done to know if it's really happening to me. Even though I don't really believe there's any causation, thinking about my Saturn return makes me feel better about the chaos in my life. Partly because it is a part of popular culture, so I can casually blame it in conversations with my peers, but partly also because it reminds me of the scale of my problems. I may be crying all the time now, but 29 years ago, I was crying as just a little baby. And Saturn will just keep moseying around again in those 29-year increments, just like it did 4 millennia before me, just like it'll keep doing long after I'm gone. And then I'm just going to read this whole little zine that I made. It's called A Few Thoughts on Being a Raggedy Femme. 2 things this summer have had me thinking a lot about where I fit as a femme. First, I got dumped and now find myself looking for dates in an unfamiliar queer community. Second, I've been following the femme flagging Tumblr. Have you guys seen this, by the way? Anyone? So good. Look it up on the internet. Where people post photos of how they use fingernail polish to ID as a femme with some parallel to the hanky system. If you don't know about that one, look that one up too. I've also seen straight fashion blogs appropriate this look, maybe unknowingly, but that's another story. Anyway, I've been considering my particular femness and how I communicate it to the world that, yep, I'm a queer lady and I'm single. But femme as a monolith just isn't that satisfying. Partly that's probably my librarian's desire for accuracy and specificity, but partly it is that sometimes I feel like a fake femme. I hate wearing heels higher than an inch. I never wear makeup. I always wait at least 2 weeks past when I really needed to get a damn haircut. No one ever calls me coiffed or fashionable, so obviously high femme is out. I know others have struggled with this. There's the cringy futch and very serviceable hard femme and tomboy femme. But as cute as all the outfits that you find searching the internet for those terms are, I've never been a tomboy and I'm not badass enough to be hard in any sense. So what kind of femme am I? A lazy, sloppy, half-assed, cheapskate, chubby, heartbroken, sunburned, raggedy femme. Yep, a raggedy femme. Do you guys remember Raggedy Ann? Yeah? I had a Raggedy Ann doll growing up, as well as some Barbies, and that's the contrast I keep thinking of. Being made of cloth isn't better or worse than being made out of plastic, it's just different. So if you have scuffed patent leather or frayed silk scarves in your closet, if you paint your nails but sometimes just let it chip off, if you shave your legs but not your pits, or sometimes you wear the same sweater all week long, if you love glitter but sometimes settle for flannel, you might be a raggedy femme too. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Next we have a piece called To Brick by Cynthia, Chelsea, and Edwin. I'll take the recorder. You want to go? Okay. Do you want to be in the middle?
What have we been doing?
I don't know. I guess I was in the middle at the table before. Okay.
Okay, this is infinitely less semblance.
How's it going? Alright, ready? We can do it. We can just do it with one hand. Alright.
A square of wood, set on a circle
Of wood.
The square resembles
a rail boxing ring.
The rail.
also of wood,
Encloses 3 sides.
It is perforated on each side.
by an opening,
Under the rail are a few vertical slats.
as if in a fence. On the downstage side, there is no rail.
It is separated.
From a large room at the back by a row of columns.
It is midday.
There is cheerful sunshine outside.
Viewpoint is
From the main body of the audience.
A beam of wood,
now
Enters through the door.
at its far end.
supporting it at its crossbar,
Is
a woman in armor. She breaks down,
In sobs,
embarrassed with sudden desperation.
kindly.
she glares at him.
He puts
His arms around her
a
shoulders.
strange noise begins.
Who hasn't listened?
All
He's
look at
into
the
the
sky, except
looking at
stop
the
looking at the
sky.
sky.
Don't look at the
He
sky,
looks at the
except
sky,
peers
picks
at
up
it.
his hat,
Picks up
peers
his hat.
into it, shakes it,
Puts
puts
it
it
on.
on. Dramatic pause.
Ample gesture of the 2 hands flung wide apart.
Vibrantly snapped his fingers.
as inspiration leaves him.
Silence.
Gloomily.
Next day.
Same time.
Same
Mock
place.
tragic.
He nods.
He taps his pen.
on the wooden rail.
He shuts his eyes.
He taps again. He
opens
opens them.
The taps are evenly spaced.
After.
The four of them.
The sound cuts out.
And is replaced by
a louder, metallic
sound on tape. The women surround the cup and obey.
He remains a moment, silent.
And motionless, then
Begins to move.
Feverishly about the stage he halts.
before the
the
tree.
Comes and goes.
Before the boots.
Comes and goes. Halts extreme.
Right.
Gazes into distance.
Extreme left.
Gazes into distance.
She hands him the brush.
Gingerly, he
And
rises.
approaches Nugget, embarrassed.
And excited.
He copies her movements.
Inexpertly.
Short pause before the break loose.
He opens the woman.
In armor's visor and peers in.
And then.
Bravely, the woman who plays records,
Begins to croak.
the coloratura cadenza,
As the women.
reach up and drag her down.
Almost.
Instant silence.
Almost instantly.
Broken,
By the shouting charge of Big Mama entering through the hall door.
like a...
Charging. Rhino.
His face glows with triumph. Forlornly, almost fearfully,
Melee. He snaps.
His fingers, he snaps.
His fingers.
a little calmer,
Exasperated.
Sententious.
he sighs.
Afterthought.
Terrified, rising, giggles.
Darkness. Silence.
Dim light on the square.
Long silence.
Thanks.
Thanks. I also just want to say, if anybody is interested in poetry and performance, we're having a show at our house on November 18th. I have flyers for it. Come ask me about it. Thanks, guys.
Cool, thanks. Next we have 2 musical performances and then hopefully some more reading after that. First band playing is Electrician, and they are on tour. They have CDs and tapes and zines on the table behind you for sale, and there's also a bowl sitting there for donations for their tour. If you have a couple bucks to throw in, that would be awesome. And yeah, cool, thanks.
Hello. My name's Neil, and this is Alan.
Hi.
Yeah, we're from Oakland. Coming through that? I don't know. Can everyone hear it? Hello? Does this sound good? Like this? Okay. I think he misunderstood me. It wasn't about the money. I think you mistook me, but I'm counting on all of it now. Hold on to your fear. Hold on to your fear. It's nothing. Hold on to your fear. There's comfort in this room. I'm pulling at your organs. I'll give up in the morning. I'm counting on all of you now. Hold on to your fear. Hold on to your fear. It's nothing. Hold on to your fear. Hold on to your fear. Hold on to your fear. It's nothing. Hold on to your fear. Hold on to your fear. Hold on to your fear. The level's okay? Does it sound okay? Can't really hear us.
Hard to hear from up there, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it okay for this to be over here? Is this yours?
Yeah.
What is
If
it?
it's not in the
I
way.
just moved it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
in front of the speaker.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool. You're going to tune really fast.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
If you're on tour, where are you from?
We're from Oakland, California.
Yay!
Yeah. And this is actually our first show of our tour, so yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's kind of exciting.
Welcome to Milwaukee.
Thanks. It's my first time here. So.
I can smell the smoke, and the dust is in my throat. I'll lay my head down in your hands. My bellies might explode because they're filled with so much hate. And I am lonely here. Put me in your mouth, and you told me where to be.
It's easier to move slowly.
this feeling. But we definitely have a home. We're just hard to notice. And I'm hard to know. We're just hard to notice. And I'm hard to know. You can't have me anymore. Oh. Huh?
Getting a little tune?
What's that?
Getting a little out of tune?
Yeah, what was it? I think because I was leaning against the window. Okay. I'm having one of my like not very talkative nights. But that's cool.
I just heard you guys on the radio.
Oh, yeah?
Cool.
Cool.
Do we sound sweet?
I hope people are listening.
There's priests all around me. They have more than they need. Supper in the cathedrals. And all is lost in the light. My sense of family has died. And I feel good. I'll live on my own. And I'm hungry. And I'm tired. And I go to work. I feel numb. And all is lost in the light and the clicking. And my fingers are wilder than this. But only at night. I'll live on my own. I'll live on my own. I'll live on my own. burn the cathedrals. And all is lost in the light, and my sense of family is dying. I feel good, but I want freedom. Thanks.
Okay.
My guitar is very unhappy.
Aw. Travel pains.
Thanks, Shannon, for doing this stuff. It's cool. Oh yeah.
Yeah, thanks to the video store.
Yeah. Thank.
And thanks to everybody for showing up.
Should I do the cover?
Up to you.
Okay. This is the cover. This is the phosphorescent song. I can fly through these hallways, dressed in light, though they always get cold. They always get cold. I can sing through my fingers, though the worth of a singer ain't nothing I'm told. It's what I've been told. But I'm a full-grown man. I will lay in the grass all day. I could freeze in the place that gets me free from this taste that I have in my heart. I have in my heart. We could curl in the water, naked swirling like otters. You know how they are. No, you know how they are. I'm a full-grown man. I will lay in the grass all day. I'm a full-grown man. I'll be calm in the grass, in your arms. In the grass, in your arms. In the grass all day. Good.
Okay, you want to do this?
Sure.
Ready.
The breeze is dead, I'll be quiet. The breeze is dead, you've been bored before. The breeze is dead, kill your spirits. The breeze is dead, I can feel it. La, 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 la. The breeze is dead, I don't need it. The breeze is dead, I can feel the quake. The breeze is dead, I can feel it dying. The breeze is dead, I can feel it moving. The breeze is dead, kill your spirits. The breeze is dead, I can feel it. The breeze is dead, I don't need it. The breeze is dead, I can feel the quake. The breeze is dead, I can feel it dying. The breeze is dead, I can feel it moving. The breeze is dead, I got spirits. The breeze is dead, I don't need it. La 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 la. The breeze is dead, the breeze is dead. 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 The breeze is dead, the breeze is dead.
2 more.
Okay, cool.
Or 2.5, actually. Oh, you didn't set it up? Okay. 2.
You turn red and your freckles got wet and your knuckles were bleeding, but you wanted to keep fighting when I blew you away. The water kept rising and your breath was getting worse, so I turned my head and you smelled like death, and it began to excite me, and I could smell you in the breeze. I didn't notice your neck, it was covered with your sleeve. I didn't know you would die. You withered and drowned while I held you down. Go away. And your knuckles are bleeding, but you wanted to keep fighting when I blew you away. Water kept rising, and your breath. Okay, let's fuck that up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Let's just stop. That's good. Yeah. Okay, we're just gonna do one more. First show, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay.
Sure happened. Okay. Just start again.
No, let's just do one more song.
Okay.
Okay.
Didn't go well.
Thank you, everyone. Next, Sleeper Lake is gonna play. It's gonna be cool. Yeah, we have things for sale and everything. It's nice to see a lot of friends in the crowd. It's good. This is like our anti-cop anthem. Half of it. of my way. Get into your cave and start breathing. Small particles and dust, and your throat will dry up. You small bird, you're not human. Da 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 da. Out of my way, get back in your cave, and I'll smother you out before the winter, and your beak will break in my fingers, and I'll burn your house with your family in it, and I'll blow up the mountain before I'm finished. And I'll blow up the mountain before I'm finished. And I'll blow up the mountain before I'm finished. And I'll blow up the mountain before I'm finished. I'm gonna table at the thing tomorrow, so I might see a lot of you there as well. Cool. Later.
Should we move our stuff?
Yeah.
Wait, hello?
Put that on the whole thing.
Is anybody else here that wants to read that didn't sign up yet? Okay. Well, there's going to be a short break while bands are switching. But yeah, Zine Fest is tomorrow at Falcon Bowl from 11 to 5. It's free. There's going to be a lot of things to look at and mostly zines. And yeah, come to it. And thanks for coming to this.